Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a question that's probably crossed your mind if you're deep into fantasy football. Can those NFL Combine three-cone drill times really tell us anything about a wide receiver's chances of fantasy success? You sent over some great sources packed with data analysis going way back to 2003.
That's right. And our job today really is to sift through all these numbers. We're looking for, maybe some surprising patterns. Can we actually pin down a range of three-cone times that links up with top-tier fantasy production? But, and this is the interesting part, we also hit some contradictions, things that keep it from being simple. It's fascinating how the data kind of leads you one way and then, bam, throws a curveball.
Okay. Let's get into it then. So the study looked at these three-cone times, specifically for the top 50 PPR fantasy finishers each year since '03. And they had this group, the bottom 10, which was finishers 41st to 50th, right? So just looking at the averages first, what did that tell us?
Well, yeah, the initial look, just the averages chart, it showed something pretty clear. The top 5 fantasy guys, they consistently clocked lower times, quicker times, obviously, quicker than the receivers finishing down in that 31st to 50th range. And this wasn't just a one-off. It held up in 10 out of the 12 years they had data for. So that definitely pointed towards, faster times, meaning better fantasy points.
So there's definitely a signal there. If the best guys are quicker, did they try and nail down a specific number, like an optimal time or range?
They did, yeah. They crunched the differences between those groups. And an initial range kind of popped out, looked like maybe 6.87 seconds was the upper end for the real elite group, and maybe 6.61 seconds was the starting point. So that helped narrow things down a bit.
Okay, 6.61 to 6.87. How did they check if that range actually mattered? Did it show up way more often for the top players?
Exactly. So verification. They first needed a baseline. They looked at that bottom 10 group, 80 receivers in total. Out of those 80, 19 guys fell into that 6.61 to 6.87 range. That's 23.8%.
Okay, so about a quarter of the lower end guys are in that range.
Right.
What about the top performers?
Right. Then they looked at the top 10 fantasy finishers, 81 of them in the sample. And out of those 81, 30 receivers hit that same 6.61 to 6.87 second window. That works out to 37.0%.
Wow, okay. So 23.8% for the bottom group, 37.0% for the top 10.
That's a jump of 13.3%. Yeah, it looks pretty compelling when you put it like that. More frequent in the top tier.
13%, yeah, that definitely sounds like something.
Right.
Did they stop there or try to get even more specific, maybe tighten that range up?
They kept digging, they fine-tuned it, testing slightly different ranges around that initial one. And what they found is the most optimal, the real sweet spot.
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At brainyballers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting ability so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers' Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
Seemed to be 6.58 to 6.86 seconds, just a touch tighter. And this slightly refined range, it showed up in the top 10 finishers 17.0% more often than in the bottom 10.
17%. Okay, so the percentages kept looking better. It seems like case closed. Faster three-cone, better receiver. But I feel that curveball coming. What happened when they, ran the actual stats, like the hardcore correlation test?
A Pearson value of just 0.01.
Okay, 0.01. Remind us what that means practically.
Well, it's basically saying there's virtually no direct linear connection, at least not when you only look at the three-cone time.
Huh. So it's not like, say, draft capital for running backs, which we know matters.
Right. For context, something like RB draft capital, which everyone agrees has some predictive value, it shows a Pearson value of around negative 0.234. That indicates negative relationship. Higher draft pick tends to mean better outcomes, roughly speaking.
That is a fascinating disconnect. We see these patterns as optimal range showing up more for top guys.
Yeah.
But the straight statistical test says, hold on, there's no strong linear link here. What was your gut reaction when you saw that number?
Well, it definitely makes you pause, right? It raises that important question about interpreting data. The patterns suggest agility matters, but the lack of that direct correlation, it means you absolutely have to take these three-cone results with a grain of salt. It's not a magic bullet.
Right.
But what's also compelling, and maybe points to why we see the pattern, is the timing. That optimal 6.58 to 6.86 range, it was significantly more common in the most recent decade.
Oh, really? How much more common?
Get this. A remarkable 38.4% increase in frequency for top 10 finishers versus the bottom 10, just comparing the last decade to the earlier ones.
Wow, 38.4%. That's huge. So the trend is actually getting stronger recently. What do you think is driving that in the modern NFL?
It strongly suggests there's an increasing emphasis on this type of agility, that quickness, the short area burst, changing direction smoothly. Modern offenses, they value guys who can create separation quickly. That seems to be driving the trend.
Okay, so offenses value it more, the best players are showing it more, but still no strong direct statistical link from the three-cone alone.
Exactly. And that tells us football success is almost never about just one single metric. Maybe these three-cone times will only really show their predictive power when you test them alongside other key things, like maybe combine it with their 40-yard dash for straight line speed or their college production stats. You'd need like a multiple regression analysis to see the combined effect. It's about the whole profile.
Right, the full picture. So what does all this mean for you, the listener? Well, our deep dive definitely pinpointed that 6.58 to 6.86 second range as an optimal three-cone time, especially in recent years. But crucially, it's not some standalone predictor.
Yeah, connecting it to the bigger picture while hitting that agility window is increasingly common. It's really just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Maybe a positive indicator, but it's definitely not the sole reason someone becomes a fantasy star.
So the big thought maybe for you to ponder is this. In a world just overflowing with data points, all these specific metrics, how do we accurately combine all these different athletic measures, plus their actual on-field play, to build a truly robust, reliable model for predicting future success in pro sports?
It's $1 million question, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's what keeps us digging.